What's up, Trainiacs? Welcome to this week's Triathlon Newsday Tuesday. In this week's edition of Triathlon Newsday, the biggest show in the cycling industry is out, canceled, done, finito, no more, sayonara, pal. 220 Triathlon magazine came out with their annual awards, and the half Ironman distance world record went down. Also, I drink a bunch of spirulina and try not to get it on my mustache while I'm talking to you. What's up, Trainiacs? So, welcome to this week's Triathlon Newsday Tuesday, where every single Tuesday we talk about things going on all around the triathlon world. As always, full links to everything we talk about are in the description below, and make sure you stick around to the end, where this week we've got a special Trainiac Story. I don't know how it'll go. So after surveying retailers and industry participants, the company that holds the largest cycling show in North America, Interbike, which I attended 2 years ago, Emerald Expositions, has decided to cancel the show. Now, this is a little bit sad for me because it was actually the first real industry event that I went to. But when I went there, I did chat with DC Rainmaker. He didn't know who I was at the time. I still don't think he knows who I am. But he looked back and he said,
Entire road, there's no one there. It's bad.
Yeah, he said that over the last bunch of years, Interbike has just consistently been seeing less and less participation, less and less actual announcements were happening at Interbike, and it was just not very exciting anymore. They recently, last year, tried to change the venue, hoping that would change things up, but apparently it hasn't. And they've said that if it is going to come back, it's going to come back and be much more affordable for all of the industry participants that set up booths, and more affordable for all of the attendees. 220 Triathlete magazine came out with their annual Triathlon Awards in just various categories, naming businesses, companies, races, volunteers, things like that. Elite Male Triathlete of the Year went to fan favorite Tim Don. Daniela Reef won Elite International Triathlete, beating out Patrick Lange, who is in second place. Game Changer of the Year was our pals at Super League Triathlon, hence me wanting to go experience Super League Triathlon. And Elite Female Triathlete of the Year, no surprise, Lucy Charles. Now, if you've missed it, we are producing a How to Swim with Lucy Charles swim program, an online video course. Now, all of the early spots that are 50% off for just Lucy's course are gone, sold out, but there are still just a few spots left for the All Access Annual Pass, which is again 50% off, that you can get at triathlontaren.com/early masterclass. Plug. Lucy Charles and Mauricio Mendez won the inaugural Patagonman Xtreme Triathlon. This is modeled after the extremely popular Norseman Xtreme Triathlon. Now, it's not quite so intense, and we know that by the finishing times. Now, the Norseman has winning times that are in the teens. Mauricio Mendez won the men's side in 8:52. Lucy Gossage ended up winning the women's side, actually placing 6th overall in 10:21. So certainly slower than a full Ironman distance race, but not astronomically slower. So an intense Ironman distance race, but not soul-crushing. I'm still wearing my tie, I just realized. Jeez, Ventum, why didn't you send me the deep V-neck? Sarah Haskins and Pieter Heemeryck ended up winning Challenge Daytona. Now, Challenge in everywhere besides North America is Ironman's #1 competitor. Particularly in Europe, they are doing very well in attracting some really big name pros. Challenge has tried to go toe-to-toe with Ironman in North America before, did not go so well, as seems to be the case with most companies, Rev3, etc., that try to go toe-to-toe and create a new series of races at the Ironman distance going up against Ironman. Now, Challenge Daytona came back, and let's see if they actually are able to compete with Ironman in North America this time. Frankly, speaking to a lot of the pros out there, they think it's a breath of fresh air to have some other company that isn't just Ironman that they can go and race. just between us girls, they say the challenge is nicer to them. Now, in half Ironman distance racing, we had half Ironman Taupo, won by Mike Phillips and Radka Vatichikova. She seems to win just about everything. The inaugural half Ironman Indian Wells was held. Lionel Sanders returned to his winning ways, and new pro Chelsea Sodaro ended up coming from behind on the run and taking the women's race. But the big news on the weekend was actually the half Ironman Middle East Championship in Bahrain, where Holly Lawrence came back after a major injury last year where she hasn't raced really much in 2018. She came back and won in under 4 hours. Granted, seems to be a little bit of a fast course, but that doesn't mean that the time put out by Kristian Blummenfelt of 3:29:04 is anything to sneeze at. This is a new half Ironman 70.3 world record time. Wild. And I think I might, you know what? Let me know in the comments below. I may do a video on why I think that Kristian Blummenfelt might be the next big thing in half Ironman distance racing. He is a really interesting triathlete coming up through the ITU ranks. In podcast world, the Triathlon Taren Podcast is still the most highly rated and ranked triathlon podcast in the world, and it's largely because of, well, NTK is the real talent behind it, but we have some awesome guests. This Sunday, we just ended up publishing a podcast that we did with Ironman age group world champion and new Ironman Kona world record holder Dan Plews, who is actually a sports scientist, and he talks a lot about how the low carb diet and HRV training are two things that he uses and has tested with himself and professional triathletes that he feels helps him get the absolute most that he can out of his time. The man's busy. He's an awesome age group triathlete. He's a dad. He is a sports scientist. He is a coach to athletes as awesome as Terenzo Bizzone, and he is still able to make these world record times. He's got to know what he's doing. And tonight we're actually going to be interviewing one of the gals who runs the Iron Women podcast, Ashley Wallace, and we're going to be talking about just women in triathlon. It's actually not something that I know a lot about, and the Outspoken Women in Triathlon Summit just wrapped up last week. I want to hear what's going on. Now, we are fresh out of Trainiac Stories. I guess with the season coming to an end, people are less jacked up. If you want to get your story shared here on Newsday, please. We like hearing these things. They motivate everyone out there incredibly. Email me at Taren@triathlontaren.com. Now, I will say my very short Trainiac story about how I got into triathlon and what it's meant to me is that when I first got into triathlon, I want to say it was 2010, I had lost at that point somewhere around 35 pounds, going from about 215 pounds down to somewhere around 180 through bodybuilding, but I wasn't really very ripped. But I wasn't ever able to make that weight stick. It would go down to 175 and then up to 185 and then down to 170, and I ballooned. I had a really hard time because there was no lifestyle aspect. And I never felt any sort of competitive juices flowing from doing bicep curls and bench presses. So at one point, I ended up injuring my shoulder doing a bench press. I couldn't lift anything, so I walked on the treadmill one day. And then after a few weeks, that got really boring. So then I alternated between walking on the treadmill and going on the stationary bike. And then that got fairly boring. And then I looked and I saw there is a pool over there. Maybe I should add that in. And after about 3 months of this, I thought, hey, Jacques, who I've done the last couple long swims with, he used to be a really good triathlete. Maybe I should talk to him and say, what does it take to do a triathlon? He's like, well, you enter and then you do it. And at that point, I felt those little competitive juices that you would get playing any sport as a kid that we don't feel anymore in our adult lives. And all of a sudden I was like, this is it. This is it. This is the lifestyle that is going to add some more fulfillment to my life and add a little bit of excitement and kind of some goals and things to be afraid of and things to overcome. And the rest is history. I talk about it enough. You guys don't want to hear from me. You want to email in your stories to Taren@triathlontaren.com and share your story. It'll be awesome. All right, Trainiacs, thank you for tuning in to this week's Triathlon News Day Tuesday. If you aren't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. And if you are subscribed, send in your story. Doesn't matter how big or small you think it might be. Everyone sharing how and why they do triathlon. It motivates each other. So let's do it. Pete wants to hear from you too. He's heard enough of me. Later, Trainiacs. Not my best shake. No, not my best one.